In this video, when we use the term system, we are not referring to any political, cultural, or religious system. Instead, we are referring to what lies beneath all of these, what motivates numerous people, human behaviors and mental states like anger and anxiety. Our happiness often depends on getting what we want from this external world. And conversely, we feel sorrow when it takes something away from us. Approval or disapproval from others deeply affects us. Praise uplifts us, while condemnation leaves us devastated. We are willing to make sacrifices to obtain something we desire. Conversely, the more we resist something, the more willing we are to pay a high price to avoid it. These desires, cycles of disgust, love, hatred, liking, and disliking leave us in a constant state of fear. We are overcome by embarrassment, blame, and the allure of external entities such as large corporations, political parties, and cults. They all seek something from us. In this way, the world governs us, dangling carrots over us like a carrot dangling in front of a donkey. And most of us, like cattle, obediently follow from birth to death. But what if we reject the carrot? What if we choose to escape from this system? Ancient metaphysics revolves around attaining freedom from the whims of our surroundings. It is important to note that freeing ourselves from this system does not require destroying our environment. The external world is not to blame. The universe operates this way, and while we may have some influence, ultimately, we cannot control it. The external world, with its inevitable conditions like sunlight, rain, and wind affecting the farmer's crop, imposes itself upon us. These conditions are not the system. Rather, the problem arises from our slavery to them. So why do we allow ourselves to be swiftly carried away by the waves of fate? Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, offers insight into this. People are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and concepts they form about things. For example, death, as demonstrated by Socrates, is not inherently dreadful. Fear lies in our perception of death as something dreadful. Therefore, when faced with obstacles, discomforts, or sorrows, we should attribute them not to others but to ourselves, to our own principles. The system works as long as we feed it. The more we attribute tragedy and chance to natural and uncontrollable things, the more our emotional state is determined by happenstance. Fortunately, metaphysics offers invaluable wisdom to liberate us from this system. So before we begin with the guiding principle that could transform an extremely vulnerable, variable, and turbulent way of life into a peaceful and free existence, please verify whether you are subscribed, and as always, stay strong, stay till the end. Don't miss the chance to master your emotions. First, how much time have we spent trying to maintain joy, regardless of circumstances, hoping for positive outcomes, and fearing the arrival of unfortunate events? How many hours have we spent in tears because reality turned out differently than we imagined? Humanity masters wrestling with fate and consequently enduring the inevitable pain it brings. Our fear provides an opportunity for exploitation. Many try to sell us promises about the future, offering illusions of security to protect ourselves and our loved ones and selling guarantees of avoiding unpleasant experiences. We try to manipulate our environment to prevent misfortune, becoming slaves to our preferences and aversions. However, we cannot lock every door in the vast mansion of life. Those who cannot patrol every street and alley of reality, despite spending a significant amount of time, effort, and money, ultimately succumb to fate. Therefore, true escape from the system lies in accepting whatever comes our way, rather than futilely resisting the inevitable. By adopting this perspective, we allow others to exploit our fears less and feel less discomfort when faced with difficulties. Seneca eloquently stated, "So why should we be angry? Why should we weep? We are prepared for our fate. Let nature take care of its own bodies. Whatever happens to us, let us be cheerful and firmly believe that what is vanishing does not belong to us." Decreasing concerns about reputation is a rule of thumb. Stoics view reputation as preferred indifferent, seeing it as nice to have but not necessary for happiness. Furthermore, like everything external, reputation is ultimately beyond our control. Some individuals spend their entire lives trying to build a good reputation, only to see it shattered with a single misstep. Conversely, others lead lives devoid of ambition and social positions, yet suddenly gain fame and admiration by chance. The result is clear. The more we rely on reputation, the more dependent we become on its capriciousness. Additionally, when we are overly concerned with others' opinions, we make ourselves susceptible to manipulation and exploitation, ultimately becoming slaves to our surroundings. Epictetus argued that our desire for a good reputation should not hinder our mental health. If necessary, we should be willing to accept things like shame, blame, and ridicule that would lead us to peace and freedom. These are within our control and thus are unaffected by others' views and judgments. Thirdly, developing the skill of resilience. Often, when we find ourselves in an unwanted situation, our immediate tendency is to seek a quick escape. However, this is not always possible. Consequently, we often resort to complaining, lamenting, and making ourselves unhappy, believing we deserve better. In reality, we are entitled to nothing. And often, the best approach to dealing with a situation is to endure it. How often have we deviated from the path we chose simply because we didn't want to endure the pain, betraying our moral compass, or compromising our values? Pain has immense power. It forces good people into unethical behavior or prevents virtuous actions. Pain continues to be a tool for control, and as we attempt to rid ourselves of it, we inadvertently fall into the trap set by those seeking to exert control over us. Thus, in our quest to alleviate some of the pain and discomfort, we become willing to change our freedom. Enduring painful situations is challenging. We can turn to the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. His meditations teach us that resilience is not necessarily negative. Resilience can serve a purpose, even if the outcome is death. In his words, everything either is tolerable or intolerable. If it is tolerable, endure it, stop complaining. If it is intolerable, stop complaining. Your extinction will mean the end of it. Just remember this: you can endure anything your mind makes tolerable, just as we can liken this approach to Albert Camus's interpretation of the Greek mythological figure, Sisyphus. The gods condemned Sisyphus to forever roll a boulder up a hill. His salvation lay in fully embracing his fate. Thus, his punishment ceased to be punitive. Embrace the inevitable. Some argue that all fears ultimately stem from the fear of death. Similarly to fear, the fear of death can significantly shape our way of life. Stoics argue that living a virtuous life is more important than a long life. While we have no control over the length of our lives, we do have control over the quality of the life we live. Fearing death can lead us to merely exist to avoid it, rather than truly living and making life exceptional. This fear constantly drives us to flee even the slightest signs of danger, and to seek conditions that provide a false sense of security, turning us into anxious sheep chasing after any shepherd promising a brighter day. But no shepherd can save us from the inevitable outcome of life, namely, the dissolution of our individual selves and the return of our physical bodies to nature. Fearing death is futile and, worse, dangerous. It potentially prevents us from living courageously and virtuously. Marcus Aurelius suggests that we should await death like someone expecting the birth of a child, not with indifference, impatience, or contempt, but by accepting it as one of life's inevitable events. We should await the hour when our souls will depart their earthly vessel, and for today, that's all.